Hello, and welcome back to the Queen Rising podcast. This November, we are entering a season of reflection because when the planet of communication appears to be moving backwards, this is a time of revisiting, review, realignment. Now, in this episode, I'm going to talk about Mercury retrograde and how to best use it. And there, we're going to talk about all of the cliche things that go around with Mercury retrograde. And I want to talk about how I see Mercury retrograde because I personally love Mercury retrogrades usually. So, if you're new to me, my name is Misty. I am the host of the Queen Rising podcast. I am an energy and alignment coach, and I help women step into more energy, more confidence, and more alignment. I have been coaching women since 2015 after I went through my own health issues around burnout and emotional eating. And after dropping 36 pounds on my own, a lot of women started coming to me. And so I have been working with women on energy and confidence and stepping into their most confident self for a long time. Then in 2020, I became a life path astrology reader where I utilize the moon cycles for realignment, as well as I can look at your birth chart to understand what motivates you. What is your best way of making money? Maybe what is your best business model? And how can we get you into alignment to creating a life you don't need a vacation from? So, what is Mercury retrograde exactly? Now, the simple version of it is Mercury is a planet of communication. It rules over technology, travel, our mindset, our voice, anything regarding communication. And when it's in retrograde, it appears to go backwards. So instead of moving forward onto something new, we are reviewing something. So some things that could happen during Mercury retrograde, and this is where Mercury retrograde gets a bad rap in pop culture. So you could have meetings go not so well. You could get text messages that aren't so kind, aren't so nice, and or you're saying things like foot in the mouth kind of things. Like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. You might have travel plans, travel itineraries go missing. If you're in business, your website could go down, or an email couldn't have not gone out like you thought it was. We could experience social media glitches. So, if you are experiencing any of these things, it's just a point to pay attention to because there's probably something that the universe is trying to get your attention on. Now, all of these things don't happen to you maybe every Mercury retrograde. Some Mercury retrogrades may affect you more than others, depending on what sign it is and depending on how that is impacting your personal chart. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. So the dates of this Mercury retrograde, it went into pre-shadow on October 21st. Mercury went retrograde on November 9th. So Mercury is currently in Sagittarius and it will retrograde back into Scorpio. So the pre-shadow just means that this is the part where Mercury retrograde is going to go back to, and then before it can move forward again. So it stations direct, which means is now moving forward on November 29th. And it's completely out of the post shadow by December 16th. So you just want to pay attention to anything significant that is happening around your communication, around between the dates of October 21st and December 16th. So the first part of the Mercury retrograde is in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius rules things like vision, big picture thinking. Sagittarius is an explorer, a truth seeker. So we may see like things like international flights, also your belief systems. Now, the second part of Mercury retrograde, this Mercury retrograde is in Scorpio. And Scorpio is all about the underworld. It's about the things that maybe you don't see. It's under the surface. So secrets may be revealed, power dynamics, energy clearing. Now, this is the final Mercury retrograde of the year. There are other planets in retrograde right now that are overlapping this Mercury retrograde, like Jupiter, Uranus. Saturn is still in retrograde, as well as Neptune. So this is just a really good time for review. So pay attention to anything like your technology going sideways. Maybe you might have to get a new phone upgrade. You may get into a car accident. We don't recommend you signing any new contracts. If you're already say you're getting ready to buy a house, but you've been looking at this particular house already in the buying phase of buying a house for 6 months, then you can go ahead and sign that contract because you've already gone through the mindset piece before Mercury was in retrograde. But let's say something new pops up, like a new job contract or new rental agreement in these next couple weeks. It is highly encouraged you don't do it while Mercury is retrograde. And if you do, you are triple checking the contract. Double check, triple check your emails, text messages before you send them. The Sagittarius is a fire sign, so it's bold, it's impulsive. Sagittarius already has a reputation of putting their foot in their mouth, saying things out, like blurting things out before thinking about the consequences. So you may just want to keep that in mind. You may be revisiting belief systems. Religion is going to be a huge, probably, topic over the next couple weeks. Your vision, your goals. Why do you do what you do? And maybe you're revisiting that. Now, when it moves into Scorpio, we want to pay attention to these deeper layers, these emotional patterns that are maybe living under the surface, power dynamics, any hidden agendas or things being swept under the rug. Now, Mercury, because it rules communication and we're reviewing, you may have certain relationships or conversations coming back around. So old lovers, old relationships, client contracts. Now, I love Mercury retrograde because it is a point of slowing down and looking at being reflective about whatever the theme is for that Mercury retrograde. It is a really good time of just slowing down and reflecting on, is this what I want, or do I need to redo something here? So how to best utilize this Mercury retrograde is review your communication style. Is there any conversations that have been like you've been meaning to revisit with your children or your spouse? It is not recommend you launch anything. So if you are in business, it's not really recommended you launch during a Mercury retrograde, especially if this is in a public house. So for instance, I'm a Scorpio rising. So this Mercury retrograde is going to be going through my first house, which is all about my personal brand and my identity. It's how people see me. So I will not be launching anything super public during this time. So if you have this going through a more not so public house, like third house, fourth house, fifth house, you can still launch. And maybe if I have Mercury retrograde going through those houses, I might launch something just through email or do a soft launch style. I will not launch anything if Mercury is retrograding through 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th houses. But if you are launching, just make sure you are triple checking everything, proofreading, send it to someone else to review it. Maybe they'll catch something that you didn't. It's also a good time to review your funnels, review your personal brand, review any systems. So I do want you to use this Mercury retrograde as a point to slow down. We are coming into the part of the year where I know the holidays seem to be like hustle and bustle, but we're going into winter, which winter is about hibernation. So utilize this winter to reflect and be intentional about slowing down. If you're in business, you can utilize this to really think about your why, think about your overall vision, your messaging, your content plan. You can also revisit your schedule, your planner, any kind of planning that you need to do. This is a really good time to do it. So you're not necessarily launching and putting it out to the public, but you're doing more of the internal work behind the scenes. And you can also personalize this by understanding where this is happening in your chart. So looking at where you have Sagittarius and where you have Scorpio. So Scorpio, it will go back to the 20th degree of Scorpio, all the way forward to about the 6th degree of Sagittarius. For me, that's 100% in my first house. And I haven't published a podcast for about a week. I've been really low energy. I was on my period over the weekend. And then I had some headaches, and I took myself to the hospital yesterday to get evaluated for my blood pressure. Now, I know I've had high blood pressure ever since the start of my divorce. And especially last October when the divorce was wrapping up. But the stress levels didn't go anywhere just because the divorce was over, because then I had a lot more financial stress I was dealing with, a lot more like time constraints. So this has been like an ongoing thing that I knew I needed to deal with. However, 3 days in a row of headaches back and forth, on and off, and nothing I was taking was helping. And I just thought, oh, maybe I should just go and get this checked out and make sure it's not so high that it's going to cause a stroke. And it was super, super high. They put me on a low dose blood pressure medication because even though I knew this was an issue, I kept thinking, yeah, but it will go back down. Once the divorce is over, it'll go back down. And it hasn't gone back down. So this is just a recurring issue that I knew I needed to take care of. And finally, I'm like, okay, let me just take care of it. So the first house represents the body. So I know I'm probably going to reviewing some of my health habits. I'm also reviewing my personal brand. So I have 2 Instagram accounts and I'm really trying to grow them. But I was posting a lot of the same content on both. And I wanted to get really distinct on the difference of what I'm posting on my personal page and what I'm posting on the podcast page. And I got into the nitty gritty of my birth chart. And so there is going to be a very distinct distinguishing between my personal brand and the podcast. And I'm so excited. So go over and join me there. So my personal brand has always been about personal transformation. I went through emotional eating and burnout. And once I got my health in check, I had a personal glow up, and a lot of people, I became the most radiant, confident version of myself. A lot of people wanted to know my secrets, and it's how I got my started in my business. So I'm kind of going back to my roots, since that is what I'm known for. But the podcast, it's more about understanding your spiritual journey, understanding your spiritual mission, and having the confidence to share that mission. Depending on where you are on that spectrum. And if you're listening to this on the podcast in Apple Podcasts, on your podcast app, there'll be no changes. You'll get both. But I'm doing the same with the podcast. I'm going to have a distinct line in the sand. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the YouTube channel you're watching this on will still continue being the Queen Rising podcast. And I'll still be sharing a lot of astrology stuff, the moon circles, how to manifest with the moon, and understanding your spiritual journey. I have a channel that I don't utilize, posting more of my personal content on there, the Misty Anderson brand. So taking you behind the scenes, maybe sharing with you a day in the life, my skincare routines, my health routines, and what I'm doing in the day-to-day of my personal life. So I'll leave the link below if you want to check that out. I just came up with this week. So there's nothing really over there right now, but I'll be building that out over the next couple months. So if you have this Mercury retrograde going through your first house, this has to do with your identity. It could have to do with your body. You could be changing your look. You could be changing your hairstyle, the way you dress, because the first house is all about how other people see you. Your second house has to do with money. So how you are making money, maybe your offers, maybe you need to refine your offers. Maybe you need to look at your income streams. Are you making enough money? You also may want to look at your spending. Are you overspending in any particular area? If this is going through your third house, this has to do with your communication, your social media, could have to do with their sibling relationships. Third house is also like elementary learning. So you may have to be looking at like the things you learned in school, and did you learn the correct things in school? So you may be like reviewing. I was taught this in school, but now I'm understanding the worldview is very different. Fourth house is about home and family. So you may be revisiting, you may be moving, you may be revisiting, am I happy here? Or maybe I am needing to redecorate my home. Maybe I'm needing to redo something around the way I'm living my life or the way I'm operating my family. If this is going through your fifth house, this has to do with your hobbies, your passions. It also has to do with romantic love. Fifth house also deals with children. If this is going through your sixth house, this has to do with your health routines or your daily routines. Also has to do with your daily work, like your domestic duties. What do you do on a daily basis? If this is going through your seventh house, it has to do with your relationships. It could be marriage, it could be client relationships, contracts. If it's going through your eighth house, it has to do with other people's money or other people's resources. Things like taxes, liens, real estate, stock market. If this is going through your ninth house, it has to do with your belief systems. Also could be international travel or college. You may be thinking you need to go back to college, get a new certificate. If this is going through your 10th house, this is about your career and reputation. So you may be going through a career change. If this is going through your 11th house, it has to do with your friend circle, public, professional organizations, also your goals, your big visions. If this is going through your 12th house, it has to do with your mental health or things hidden. It also it could do with like spirituality. Maybe you're needing to review your spiritual practice. Maybe you're needing to review your mental health. Maybe there's something that you're doing or not doing that is contributing to poor mental health. So let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. I'd love to know where this is happening and what are you noticing? What themes are coming up? Maybe you're like me and you had some health stuff come up, or maybe you are revisiting your brand, you're revisiting your offers, or thinking about making money in other ways.